What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Nathan, and today we're just going to do an informal review on Gearboxes. I'm going to dive into the game and just kind of show you what I think about them with my personal experience. I've had some requests to do this, so I've been wanting to do this for a long time. So without further ado, here is the guide to Gearboxes. Hope you guys really enjoy this. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share the video as well. So let's get into this. Roll the tape. Alright, so welcome to the garage. This is my personal account that I've been playing on to catch back up, and we're going to break down some gearboxes. I'm going to go through the scouts, the hauling class vehicles, and then I'm going to look at the special gearboxes as well. And then later we're going to look at when to shift gears and what's the best option for a gearbox, like what option we should use as players and what option we should use with choosing trucks as well. So alright, let's just dive in here. So right now I have the Chevrolet CK1500. This is the truck review that I'm doing right now, and it should be up this Friday. But anyways, here we go. Let's jump into the gearboxes. So first, we start out with, I'm gonna purchase these all real quick, just so, I don't know why I can't purchase, okay, cool. All right, so when you start the game, you get the stock gearbox. And this is just a stock gearbox that comes with the trucks, and it basically has very basic features on it. So I'm going to break down some cons and pros of each one of these. So the first con that I have, the downside number one, is going to be it doesn't have high gear. The second con, it only has one low gear option. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on why I think this is a bad thing. But we're just going to skim through this, and I'm going to show you the pros now. So upside number one, it's really good on fuel compared to the Fine Tune and the SnowRunner gearbox. They just use a little bit more fuel, and we'll talk about that when we go through the descriptions as well. Next, it's usually free with every truck that you buy. It usually comes stock. The balanced gearbox or the stock gearbox usually comes stock, so you don't have to pay for it. It has a faster top end speed than the SnowRunner gearbox and the Fine Tune, and that's a pro. It just can go a little bit faster on paved roads as well. So those are the upsides and downsides of the stock. Let's move on to the Fine Tune. So for the Fine Tune, this has, we're going to read the description here. It's a gearbox with a freely configurable low gear range with gear transfer ratio, somewhat less durable and less fuel efficient than regular options, especially in all-wheel drive mode. So basically this is going to use more gas, but you have more ranges for your low range, I guess your low range gearbox, or I guess when you shift it to low. So the first downside, it's bad on fuel economy. The second downside, it's not very fast top end speed, and it's kind of goes along with the SnowRunner gearbox as well. They're not very fast at top end speed, and for me it's okay, but for other people it might be a big deal. The third downside and final, it's not found until Wisconsin, and this is a new thing that came out I think in phase 3. When they brought out Wisconsin, they brought out the Fine Tune gearbox, and it was something I was super excited about. But when I found out about the fuel consumption, and everybody knows I'm really super, I guess you would say, I don't know, speculated or just anal about fuel consumption. So this, I really don't use it. So, but it is a good gearbox if you like to have more lower ranges. So with the pros, it has multiple low ranges. So you can actually go from low range, and there's multiple settings on the low ranges that you can actually fluctuate through. So you can have a faster low range or a slower low range. It just has more ranges. It's kind of nice, but with the fuel consumption, it's a bad thing. And then the second pro, it has faster low range modes. So compared to the SnowRunner gearbox, you can go a little bit faster in low range with the Fine Tune at the highest setting on low plus. And that's kind of cool because, you know, I'm a person that likes to use the low range gearbox a lot, so it's kind of nice. All right, let's move on to the Freeway. Freeway, the downside number one is it only has one low range gearbox, and I like to have a little bit more flexible, and I think that's just a downside because it only has one low range. The second one, it's situational use, and I think lighter scouts struggle with the Freeway gearbox because of wheel spin, and that's something I've talked about on my truck reviews. And yeah, it's just situational. If you just try it out, it's something you just have to try out and see if it works. But if you're getting too much wheel spin with the Freeway gearbox, then yeah, you might want to just switch it up. It's kind of personal preference in that regard. So all right, let's talk about the pros now. So the first pro, it's good on fuel. The stock and the Freeway are just good on fuel. Like, you just can't get around it. And it says it in the description. It's an advanced gearbox supporting many functions improvements over regular variants, such as high gear and a top speed. So it has great top speed as well, and a high gear at the cost of lower reliability. So I wouldn't really worry about the lower reliability. You don't really take much gearbox damage unless you're really like stalling yourself out all the time. So yeah. And then the next pro, it has the fastest high range speed. When you throw in high range, which we all like to do, I do. If you see my videos, I'm always doing. If you see my my streams, I'm always using high range. So I love high range. It has a really fast high range. If the Scout can support it, it's going to be a wonderful thing for you, and you're going to make up speed. And then the last pro, it has the fastest top end speed. And I believe it has 6 gears for the Freeway Scout, and you can get going pretty fast on paved roads. If you can control the Scout, then that's good. It's awesome, man. So, all right, let's wrap it up with the SnowRunner gearbox. And personally, this is the one I use, but we're going to talk about the pros and cons of this as well. So the first downside, it has a low top end speed, kind of like the Fine Tune. It just can't go really fast. It suits players that have a slow mindset and they just want to like go a little bit slower, kind of like myself. So yeah. The second downside, it only has 4 gears, and unlike the Freeway, it just can't get up to those top speeds. I'm not sure if the Freeway does have 6 gears or not. It might have 8, like the high range gearbox. I'm not sure, so because I just don't use it. But yeah, the SnowRunner gearbox just doesn't have as many gears, so you just won't get to those top speeds, but you'll still go pretty fast. I feel like I can go pretty fast. If you watch my Chevrolet CK 1500 video, you're gonna see it goes pretty fast, and that all the footage is just with the SnowRunner gearbox. So yeah, it's not that bad. Then moving on to our third and final con for the SnowRunner gearbox, it has an increased fuel consumption. All right, so if we were to rank fuel consumption out of all these, the stock and the Freeway have the best fuel consumption values for Scouts, and you can just see those. You can see it fluctuate right there in the consumption. Fuel consumption goes to A+, and then it's at A+. And then with the Fine Tune, it's at A. SnowRunner, it's at A as well. But the Fine Tune even states that it has worse fuel consumption than the SnowRunner gearbox. And that's why I don't use the Fine Tune, and I use the SnowRunner gearbox. And I'm going to explain that a little bit later as well. Okay, so let's move on to the upsides. So the upside of the SnowRunner gearbox is you have 3 low gear options. You have high-low, medium-low, and low-low. And this is really useful because Scouts, they're really light. And whenever you hit a mud pit, if you're looking at your tire spin, you can tend to dig yourself in holes. And this is where you can kind of tailor your wheel spin to move you through a mud pit based upon those 3 gear settings and activating differential locking. And that's something that you can use in conjunction to help you. And that's why I think it's one of the most beneficial pros in this regard. All right, so let's move to the next one. It's best suited for tough terrain, and I kind of just explained that a little bit with the number 1 upside. You can just use it better. The one low range option, it just doesn't get you through faster. Like sometimes you can get away with using high-low instead of low-low and get more progression through a mud pit, and sometimes not. So I like to have the option to go a little bit faster. I necessarily do not like the speed run or go fast or anything like that, like I've explained, but if I'm gonna make up speed in tough areas, I would like to be able to do so. So that's why I think, that's a really good upside. And then the third upside is it helps with wheel spin. And this kind of goes along with what I've just been saying. Scouts are just lighter vehicles, and they don't really sit in mud pits really well. Heavier Scouts in the game, they just they do better. So when you hit a mud pit and you see the mud start spinning, The gearbox like this, the SnowRunner gearbox, it just helps with the slow things down a little bit. And that's our number 4 downside, is it slows things down. So you can actually get through mud pits. And that's why I like it, just a slower pace game. So that's the Scouts right now, guys. I'm going to show you a little bit of footage with Gearbox, and then we'll jump to the hauling class vehicles.
School's cool, but I always break rules. Even my teacher like, yeah, I got the flu. It's the truth, Miss Connor. You know I never tell a lie. Meanwhile, I'm outside playing beer pong. Spring hasn't been around here in so long. Yeah, cause we live in that Ohio weather. Writing papers when the sun is out, whatever. It's like I came out of the hibernation from the winter. I'm feeling good, I'm feeling so fine. I'm feeling transformed like my name was Optimus Prime. Sipping on that Corona and lime. Ease my mind, time's ticking, but we never watch the time. What a good feeling. You raise the bar, but I'm trying to raise the ceiling. It's a feeling that I get every single time I spin. Set a pick, no dish, roll off, watch me hit.
Springtime, it comes around in Ohio every once in a while. Springtime, we be putting it down in Ohio.
Alright, so it's time to check out the hauling class vehicles, because they have a little bit different values on the gearboxes. So let's dive in here and let's check it out. So yeah, here's the Dairy Longhorn 4520. I love this truck, by the way. I just wish it had more power to weight. Anyways, let's jump in here. Alright, let me purchase these real quick and then we'll jump in. Alright, so the balance gearbox. The balance gearbox is basically a stock gearbox, just like the Scouts. You start with them, they're free, and we'll show some pros and cons about them as well. So let's dive into that. So it's a regular gearbox with balanced performance, respectable durability, and a single low gear. All right, so the first downside of the balanced gearbox, it doesn't have a high gear. And that's a problem for me, because if you ever watch my streams or you ever watch my videos, I'm constantly using high gear. I'm shifting from high gear to low plus to low medium to low minus, back to auto and back to high range. So that's kind of a bad thing for me, because I think it makes up a lot of time with high gear as well. So that's why I don't like this gearbox. The second downside, it only has one low gear. I kind of just explained that. I like having 3 low range gears just for tire spin issues. And a lot of vehicles have those tire spin issues, kind of like how I just mentioned with the Scouts. So yeah, I do like having options when it comes to gearboxes. So let's move on to the pros. So it's good on fuel, just like the stock gearbox in the Scout and the Highrange gearbox here. They're both good on fuel. If you're trying to make up fuel consumption, you're trying to make your vehicle more fuel efficient for like a hard mode, the balanced gearbox could be a good thing for you. The second downside, it's free, or second upside, I mean, it's free. The third, it has a faster top speed than the fine tune and the off-road gearbox, and that's just because I think it has five gears instead of 4, so it can reach higher speeds in lighter terrain. But we're gonna move forward, and I'll show you why I do not think that the balanced is the best option for drivers. All right, so let's move on to the fine tune. It says it's a specialized gearbox allowing free low gear and rear low gear transfer tuning, notoriously fragile and not very fuel efficient in all-wheel drive mode owing to its mechanical complexity. Sorry, I'm bad at reading when I'm like under pressure here, so just bear with me. Anyways, so yeah, it's basically telling you that it's going to use a lot more fuel, but you have better ranges with your low gears, just like the Scouts. Kind of the same. It's basically the same type of mechanism, and we'll talk about the pros and cons here. So let's dive into the first downside, and that's going to be bad fuel economy. Kind of like I was saying, it uses the most fuel out of any gearbox, and because I do not like using a ton of fuel, I like range. I like being able to do missions for a long period of times. It's not really my go-to. I normally don't use it. I will never recommend it to drivers. If you like this gearbox, I have nothing against that. It's just kind of personal preference for me, because maps are getting bigger, tougher, and I just like to have range and not run out of gas and stuff like that. So that's just my personal preference. Downside number 2, it's not very fast top speed, which we kind of mentioned. It only has 4 gears to get up to. It doesn't go really fast. It's not a huge bad thing, but yeah. Number 3, it's only found in Wisconsin maps. So it comes on phase 3, so you can't access this unless you jump maps in the beginning of the game and go unlock it just to have it, or if you play the game chronologically, then you get it in phase 3, which is a long way away. So let's jump into the pros here. Let's see. It has multiple low ranges, kind of like how I explained on the Scouts. It has multiple low ranges. You can go a lot faster on low plus than you can on the regular off-road gearbox, and it's kind of nice. You can go a lot slower. You can kind of just tailor your wheel spin and fine tune it. That's kind of why it's called the fine tune, I guess. And yeah, you can just has more options for the low range gears, which is kind of good as well. All right, so let's move on to the high range gearbox. The high range gearbox is kind of like the Freeway, but for the bigger trucks they call it the high range. So, and this, I've been using the high range a little bit more, and it's kind of truck dependent because of the weight issues. So with vehicles that have really lightweight, kind of like the KRS Bandit, using the high range gearbox is just kind of tough because you have so much power that you're just going to spin, and you're not going to go anywhere. Even with your wheels spinning that fast, you're just going to dig yourself into a rut. So with vehicles that have good weight, yeah, I think it could be okay to have the high range gearbox and getting places faster. I've been using it more, but I still go to the off-road gearbox as much as possible. But anyways, let's jump into the cons. So it only has one low range gear, and that's kind of an issue for me, like we've talked about a little bit earlier. And the second downside, it's in situational use. Lighter trucks do struggle with it just because they just have that wheel spin issue, which I kind of elaborated on just a bit ago. So yeah, and let's move on to the pros now. Let's see. It's good on fuel. It's one of the best gearboxes for fuel. So if you're trying to get the most range out of your truck with, putting on an engine that doesn't eat as much fuel, you can also pair it with the high range gearbox and get really good fuel mileage, especially with the trucks that have low fuel capacity and multiple engines, kind of like the BM17 and stuff like that. So you can definitely use it with that. So now the pros. It's fast, and it's the fastest high range speed. So out of all the gearboxes, it has the best, fastest speed in high range. And if you watch my Azov 5319 video, I'm using the high range gearbox quite a bit in there, and you can just see how it just blazes through things. And that's what I love about it. If you have a balanced truck that has good weight, good traction, it will just run through things in high range gearbox with the high range gearbox. So that's what I really like about it as well. And the final upside is it has the fastest top speed. I believe it has 8 gears, guys, and I'm sure you've seen people, do some crazy things and get some crazy speed with the high range gearbox. So you can actually make up a lot of ground because you're just gonna cover that much in a short amount of time. So yeah, that's basically the rest of the high range, and we'll jump to the off-road gearbox, which is personally what I like to use. So the first downside for the off-road gearbox is going to be a low top end speed. You just can't go faster than the high range or the balance because you don't have those gears, those extra high gears. The second downside, it only has 4 gears, like I said. And then the third, it has increased fuel consumption. So it doesn't eat up as much fuel as the fine tune. So in the description, it says it's a very sturdy gearbox optimized for harsh off-road conditions, sacrificing fuel efficiency, top speed, and gear count in exchange for 3 low stage gears. So that's kind of cool. You still get your three low range gears, but yeah, you're just going to eat a little bit more fuel, but not as much as the fine tune. So, and I've tested this, I know this. So this is the gearbox I like to choose. So let's move on to the pros here. It has 3 low range gears, like I've said. They're awesome for wheel spin and just manipulating your gearbox, and I do that a lot. If you ever watch my videos, I'm constantly going from low plus low to high range to auto constantly. I'm just trying to test how much I can get, and I like that a lot. The next upside, it's best suited for tough terrain, and I believe that. I love having the ability to alter my wheel spin to get a faster progress through a deep spot. Our third upside, it helps with wheel spin. And for those lighter trucks that, you know, when you hit a mud pit, you're just flinging mud or snow everywhere. It helps because you can just slow your wheels down and allow yourself to just kind of slowly move through it until you get to a spot where you can make up that speed later. And then the last upside, it just slows the game down. And that's kind of like my gameplay. My gameplay is, I like a slower gameplay because I take note of the areas and the terrain, and that's just how I play. And if you ever come see me on stream, you'll see I'm constantly kind of like analyzing and going on these tangents and stuff like that. So yeah, I just like the slower gameplay. So that is the off-road gearbox, and this is the hauling class trucks that we just went over. And next we're going to talk about the special gearboxes, and yeah, we'll do some gameplay here. I'll show you a little bit of the gear manipulation as well, and we'll talk about the special gearboxes.
This is from JD Production.
Alright, so moving on to our special gearboxes. So there's some vehicles, even in the scout classes, in the hauling class vehicles, that have these things called special gearboxes. And you'll come across these in the game, and I'm just going to break down real quick. I'm not going to really go through the pros and cons here just for the sake of time, but I'm going to kind of brush through them and just give you a little gist of what they're all about. And you'll kind of see them a little bit here with gameplay as well. So let's dive into this. Here's the Kolob 74760. Really good truck. I've used it a ton. I haven't been using it a lot lately because just newer content, newer vehicles I've been using more often. So all right, let's dive in. Let's purchase this. So the special gearbox. So the special gearbox, it says, is a gearbox for special trucks tuned optimal performance and good reliability, as well as getting high and low gear. So this is a gearbox that gets 4 gears. So you'll have one first, second, third, and fourth. You still get a high gear range, which is good, and you get 1 low gear. So it's kind of like, it can get decent fuel economy for what it is, and if you just see me switch to the fine tune, you'll see how it drops the fuel economy. It's kind of like the balance gearbox for the other class trucks. So I would think of it like that, but with a high range additive to it. All right, so let's jump to the fine tune. I explained what the fine tune is, so I'm not really going to go into what the fine tune is. We kind of explained that. It's basically the same thing, but it's just in this vehicle here. So the advanced special, and this is a gearbox that comes in, I think has in the Azov 64131 has the advanced special as well, and I believe the Tuz 420 Tatron has this one as well. This is a 4 gearbox that has 3 low ranges. It's kind of like, what I think of it is, it's basically the off-road gearbox for the larger trucks. And I'm not necessarily sure how, you know, with the rev caps, I don't know if it's different in the off-road gearbox opposed to the advanced special. I haven't really noticed anything. If you know anything about it, let me know in the comments. But yeah, it's basically the off-road gearbox, just for the different set of trucks. So that's basically it. But you'll get those 3 low gears, which I love. So this is the one I go for, but it does have higher fuel consumption than the regular special. So something I did was I used the Azov 64131. I will scroll to it real quick here. I've done this to be kind of fuel crazy. So I've used the stock engine and put on just the special gearbox, and I've gotten some crazy fuel economy perks from this setup here. And this is kind of what I did early in the game, just to, and I would just stay out forever with this setup, just because I wasn't burning much fuel at all with the basic engine and the basic special gearbox. But let's jump back to our collab, because I want to talk about the multi-purpose. So I haven't locked this yet because my game was deleted, and now I'm just kind of like re-going through the game again. And this is the last region that I need to get through once again, so I haven't picked up this gearbox. But basically, this gearbox it's faster than the advanced special. It does not have a high gear like the special and the advanced special, and the fine tune as well. And it only has 1 low gear, but it is better on fuel consumption. And I believe it's a 5-speed gearbox. So I kind of think of it as a balanced gearbox. Kind of like the off-road truck, you'll see it's just a balanced gearbox. So it does get good fuel consumption, as you can see down the fuel consumption tab right here. You can see how it goes up to C. So if you want to get better ranges, you want to go a little bit faster than the rest of these on moderate surfaces, light surfaces, or even on roads, the multi-purpose is going to be pretty good. If you don't really mess with high gear, the multi-purpose is probably going to fit you well. But if you're a high gear user, then maybe you should probably use the advanced fine tune or the special. All right, so that is the special gearboxes. We're going to talk next about when to shift gears, and yeah, let's do this. All right, so when to shift gears. So this right here is the Freightliner 114 SD. It's an off-road truck. It's American, has switchable all-wheel drive and diff lock. And I just use this because I'm going to be manipulating the gearbox a little bit here. So what I like to do, you'll constantly see that I'm going to be moving my gearbox to see what I can get from the truck in these conditions, what I'm currently in. But I'm also looking at the wheels and what they're spinning and how much dirt they're kicking up. So if they're kicking up a bunch of dirt or mud, that's the signal that you need to downshift. And that's why I'm always looking at my tires. So we're gonna go up here to this tire pit, or this mud pit up here, and I'm gonna show you how I do things personally with downshifting and such. So I'm gonna pre-downshift to low plus, and I'm gonna hold it. I'm still in auto. So right here, shift down, and this is low plus. And I'm kind of look. So I'm spinning too much, so low is probably gonna be my best bet. I'm not really spinning. I'm getting good movement. If I put it in high-low, I'm not really getting much more. A little bit. So I kind of like pay attention to how much I'm moving and just keep moving these back and forth and see what you can get and what works the best. And that's kind of like how I work when I'm going through gears and shifting, and just basically seeing what the truck and what the terrain is going to give me. So I'll pre-shift the high gear here. Yeah, and I should be able to just rip out of this. So this is the off-road gearbox. Sorry, I can't speak today. Yeah, and that's basically how I do it. And then on light roads like this, just leave it in auto, and you can throttle bump as well. And I'll kind of go up here and show you the throttle bump. So right here, I throttle bump it. That's basically just hitting the clutch, and you downshift based on what the truck needs. So you see how I was in 4th gear and I throttle bumped it, and I just throttle bumped it again to 1st. But then you can just throw it in low plus with the diffs on, and you just move a little bit faster until you feel like you can move a little bit quicker, and then just play with your gearbox. And honestly, that's it. That's like the basics of it. it's all about how you feel and what you're comfortable with. So that's basically it on what you should do and when you should shift gears. Next, we're going to move on to what's the best option. So yeah, let's do this. What's the best option? So based on the best option, it's always going to be up to, number one, it's going to be up to based on your player style. And this is going to be based on what you think you should be doing and how you like to play. And this is kind of like totally subjective, and this is why I love the game, is because you can just play the game how you want to and not really listen to what everybody else is doing. If you make it work, make it work. And that's how I like to go about the game as well. But I do like to also work on my improvements. So I think it's just based upon your goals and your play style. For me, I like the slower paced gameplay, kind of like what you're seeing right now. I'm not really going too fast with the Highrange gearbox blazing through here because I probably would tip over because I'm not that good of a driver. So yeah, I like the slower paced gameplay. So that's kind of like my personal play style, and I just like to be able to have those low gear options as well. And yeah, so for number two, I think it's going to be based on the truck. And I say this because I spoke a little bit earlier about wheel spin, about things like weight, grip, and fuel consumption. And then also I need to mention the always-on, all-wheel drive, and diff lock features. So if you have a vehicle that has always-on, all-wheel drive, and diff lock, you probably can get away with using the Highrange gearbox because your auto is always going to be working like a low-range gear. Because like a truck like this, I can only use my diff lock whenever I'm in low gear. So if you have a truck that has those always on, auto might be a good option for you with the Highrange gearbox. And also the Highrange gearbox with the always on, all-wheel drive, and diff lock just works so good. And if you ever seen any gameplay like with the Azov 5319, you can look at that video. I did a truck review on it. It basically has really good weight. I feel like it has a sweet spot of power to weight where it can just blaze through things because it has good weight, good grip, good power. And some vehicles have too much power and not enough grip, which is weight. So grip equals weight. And that's just something I found out in the game. Heavier trucks they grip a lot better. So if you can find a truck that's balanced, vehicles like the Tega, the Vorons, things like that, and even the Azov 5319, like I just said, they're going to be very, very good with the Highrange gearbox, and you're going to get some fuel consumption bonuses by using that gearbox as well. So yeah, that's kind of like my little take on what gearboxes you should use. So yeah, when it comes down to it, it's basically based on your play style, your goals, and also based on the truck you're using. So just take a look at your truck. If it has the S+ rating, you're probably going to want to use an off-road gearbox just to be able to slow the wheel spin down. If it's in the A to A+, maybe the S rating, I think the Tega gets to an S rating. I think that's probably the max point that you're going to get to without having the maximum wheel spin. So anyways, guys, that's just my take on it. Take it for a grain of salt. Everybody's preference is different and everybody's opinion is different, but this is just things that I found out from my last year of gameplay and playing SnowRunner. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Please help support the video by liking, subscribing, commenting, and share the video as well. So you guys have a blessed day, and we'll see you next time.